February 2023. Dodge sent out a letter. Not an email, not a press release, a physical letter, hand-signed, to every Challenger owner in America. 3 words changed everything. This is goodbye. The Dodge Challenger, the last car you could walk into a dealership and buy, with 797 horsepower, a supercharger whine that sounded like a demon screaming, and zero concern for fuel economy, emissions standards, or what your neighbors thought at 7 in the morning, was dead, gone, finished. And with it, something bigger died too. An entire philosophy, a way of thinking about cars that had survived oil crises, emissions regulations, insurance company death squads, and 5 decades of people saying it couldn't last. The muscle car era, the real one, the one that started in 1964 when Pontiac shoved a 389 into a Tempest and called it a GTO, finally ended. Not with a bang, but with a whimper disguised as 1,025 horsepower. Here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Was the Dodge Challenger really the last true American muscle car, or was it just the last dinosaur, too stubborn to realize the meteor had already hit? American muscle cars were never supposed to make sense. That was the entire point. They were born out of post-war economic boom, cheap gasoline, wide-open highways, and the philosophy that if something is good, more of it must be better. The formula was simple. Take a mid-size family car, rip out the sensible engine, drop in the biggest V8 you could fit, add minimal suspension upgrades, slap on some racing stripes, and sell it to 22-year-olds who couldn't afford a Corvette but had steady jobs at the factory and something to prove on Saturday nights.
For about 10 years, it worked spectacularly. The Pontiac GTO invented the template. The Chevelle SS perfected it. The Plymouth Roadrunner democratized it. The Dodge Charger and Challenger turned it into art. These weren't transportation, they were cultural statements, a fist raised at authority, at common sense, at anyone who said 450 horsepower in a car with drum brakes was a terrible idea. Then came 1973. The oil crisis hit like a sledgehammer. Gas prices quadrupled overnight. Americans waited in line for hours just to fill their tanks. Insurance companies charged young muscle car owners like they were insuring nuclear weapons. Emissions regulations strangled engines to shadows of their former selves. By 1974, the party was over. The original Dodge Challenger disappeared after 1974. The Charger became a personal luxury coupe, then a front-wheel drive economy car. The GTO was canceled. The Chevelle SS faded into irrelevance. Pontiac itself would eventually die. The muscle car became something your dad wouldn't shut up about at Thanksgiving. America moved on. Minivans, front-wheel drive, fuel injection, practicality, safety, common sense. The muscle car was dead, buried, and forgotten. Except it wasn't. Not completely. 34 years later, in the middle of an economic collapse, Dodge did something absolutely insane. The global economy was imploding. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Bear Stearns vanished. General Motors and Chrysler were begging Congress for bailout money to survive. This was not the time for nostalgia, for risky bets, for flamboyant gestures. And yet, Dodge brought back the Challenger. They didn't modernize it. They didn't create a sleek European-influenced interpretation. No, they made it almost exactly like the 1970 original. Long hood, short rear deck, wide hips, an aggressive stance that screamed, "I'm here to cause problems."
Critics lost their minds. Too heavy, too retro, too impractical, too much like a cartoon of itself. The Challenger weighed 4,100 pounds. It got 16 miles per gallon if you drove it carefully, and yet Dodge didn't care. While Ford made the Mustang nimble and Chevrolet turned the Camaro into a technical tour de force, Dodge went the opposite direction. They doubled down. Bigger, heavier, more theatrical, more absurd. This wasn't about lap times or competing with BMW. It was about feeling, about theater, about driving something that had been frozen in amber in 1970 and thawed out in 2008 with zero apologies. Then came the Hellcat in 2015, 707 horsepower from the factory, a supercharged 6.2-liter V8 that screamed like industrial machinery having a violent disagreement. 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, quarter mile in 11 seconds, top speed electronically limited to 199 miles per hour because factory tires would literally disintegrate above that. The Hellcat wasn't just excessive, it was defiant, a factory-built middle finger. Dealer lots had waiting lists, people were paying markups, trading in perfectly good cars, taking out loans, all for the experience of excess without apology. Dodge wasn't finished. They built the Demon, 840 horsepower, wheelies from the factory, a car that came with a toolbox to remove the passenger seat and splitter yourself. Too fast for some drag strips without a roll cage. Hours after release, it was sold out. Insanity, irresponsible, magnificent. Then the Red Eye, 797 horsepower, super stock, jailbreak. By the end, the Challenger lineup had 24 variants, 300 horsepower daily driver or 1,025 horsepower street-legal monster. Same body, same badge, all sold. The Challenger had become more than a car. It had become a movement. Walk into any car meet today and you'll see them everywhere. Hellcats, Scat Packs, RTs, wide bodies, doctors, line cooks, lawyers, retirees, college graduates. You didn't need racing knowledge, you just needed to turn the key. Suddenly, you were somebody. Every stoplight a stage, every highway on-ramp an opportunity. The Challenger and Charger became memes, symbols of excessive, unapologetic living, but the owners didn't care. The cars were about the sensation of pressing the throttle, the supercharger screaming, the violence of acceleration compressing your chest and scrambling your brain chemistry.
December 2023. The last Dodge Challenger rolled off the Brampton, Ontario assembly line. Black Demon 170. 1,025 horsepower on E85, quarter mile in 8.91 seconds. End of an era. Dodge promises electric versions in the future. Instant torque, modern performance, cleaner, faster. But it won't feel the same. Feelings aren't engineered. They're earned through history, culture, and the specific combination of violence and theater that only a supercharged V8 provides. The Challenger succeeded because it refused to evolve. Stubborn, excessive, absurd, heavy, thirsty, cheap plastics, outdated infotainment, mediocre handling. On paper, it lost. In spirit, it won everything. Was it the last true American muscle car? Yes. Muscle cars were never practical. They ignored common sense completely. More power, more noise, more absurdity, always. Regulations, market trends, electrification all make it impossible to repeat. A Tesla Model S Plaid is faster in every measurable way, 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, quarter mile in the 9s, top speed over 200. But it doesn't sound like a Hellcat. It won't make you feel like you're getting away with something every time you start it. Today, Hellcats are stored, babied, treated like museum pieces. Perfect. Tragic. They were meant to be driven hard, loud, and without regret. Burnouts, drag strips, highway poles, joy in defiance. 10 years from now, when gasoline is rare and every new car is electric, the Challenger will be remembered not as a dinosaur, not as an anachronism, not as a mistake. It will be remembered as the last time an American manufacturer said yes to something completely, beautifully, wonderfully stupid. The Challenger will be remembered as a car that refused to apologize, gave you 707 reasons to smile and 0 reasons to care what anyone thought. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. America in sheet metal, excessive, loud, shameless, the automotive equivalent of fireworks. And now, it's gone. The last true American muscle car is gone, but what it represented, defiance, excess, the magnificent stupidity of building something that makes no sense, lives on, in car meets, in burnouts, in every story that starts with, "I had this Hellcat," and ends with disbelief. And so, the Dodge Challenger, the last true American muscle car, drives off into history. It's more than a car. It's a symbol of defiance, of excess, of a time when rules were suggestions and power was a feeling, not just a number on a spec sheet. We may never feel that way again. We may never hear a supercharger scream like that, or feel 797 horsepower pressing us into the seat with reckless abandon. But the memory, the legend, the thrill, that lives on. Some cars are measured in speed or performance. Others are measured in emotion. The Challenger belongs to the latter. And for a fleeting, glorious moment, it reminded us all what it means to be truly alive behind the wheel. Long live the Challenger. Long live the dream of American muscle.